Hi. Today I'm very pleased to not only welcome Andy back, but also to introduce Mayra Hurtado, the CEO and co-founder of Prelude Health. Welcome to it.
Thank you very much. I'm so excited to be here with both of you.
Welcome.
And thank you very much for coming to Singapore as well. This is amazing. It's wonderful to have another exciting company to talk about. Not only an early stage tech company, but an early stage tech company that's really in the health business, which I think is fantastic. The first guest we've had on in this sector. So Welcome to it.
Oh, that's exciting.
Very good. Now, can you tell us a little bit about you? And before we start to talk about your company, where are you from originally and why are you in Singapore?
Yeah, well, that's a whole story on its own. So I'm originally from Mexico. I came to Singapore about 16 years ago to do an MBA. My background was on finance, operations, business, basically. And when I did my MBA in NTU, I switched to marketing. I worked shortly in a biotech, and then I worked for 10 years in Adidas.
Whoa. What's the link between biotech and Adidas?
Marketing.
Okay.
Every company needs to sell their product.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, very true.
So in Adidas, I basically during 10 years, I did everything from like stocking boxes in the sample room.
Yeah.
As an intern. Eventually, I was leading the product team where we planned all the product line that goes into Southeast Asia, Pacific. We worked a little bit with the rest of Asia as well. And we decided what products goes where, basically. Work with financial planning, ops. We also work on developing internal softwares. So it was a great school. It was a lot of fun.
Good learning, yeah?
Yeah. So, but at the last year, my last year, I started to have health issues. At that point, it was a pandemic. I'm sure everybody was going through a really hard time. We hear a lot of stories. Very stressful for everyone. We were in Singapore for 2 years where we couldn't go back, see our families. I think that was very tough for many of us. Eventually, I moved to another role, also doing marketing for a health and wellness company. And at that point, my health issues just started to flare up. I didn't know where they were. And I didn't know they were related either. I saw all kinds of doctors. I think in Singapore, we're very blessed because we have access to all kinds of medicine.
No kidding.
And top level medicine.
Without the huge waiting lists.
So it's a really, I think, 5% of the world. I'm also lucky that I could afford it. Until eventually I realized I've bumped into a specialist that sent me to do lab test. I had to send the lab test outside to the US, which to me that was a surprise twice because my saliva sample was not clean enough. And at that point, I received a piece of paper with a bunch of numbers that obviously I could not read, but on top it had a word that says perimenopause. I never heard of this word, so obviously I had a shocker. I thought I was at the end of the line. But I was very lucky because I had this specialist that basically gave me a re-education about how the brain and the rest of our body organs work and hormones. And she helped me. She built by hand a plan, a very precise plan specifically for me. And I basically lost 10 kgs, which was mostly in 8 to 10 months, mostly because it was inflammation. It was all done through supplementation, nutrition, stress management. So at that point, I got introduced through a common friend to my now co-founder, Dr. Kumble. Dr. Kumble is originally from the south of India, currently living in San Francisco, but she had previously founded a company in New Zealand where she, in her garage, built an ELISA machine to do blood testing in 10 minutes. She did that because she has a postdoc from Stanford. So when she was pregnant with her first daughter, she did not know that she was not vaccinated against rubella.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So her daughter was born with a heart issue that had to have surgery. So that's when she realized that this was a big problem, and that's how she built the machine in her garage. She got the support from the New Zealand government. They built a very big business. The company is over 10 years old. And then she was when they left the company in good hands and moved to the US, she was looking for something else in women's health, and that's how
So
serendipity.
it was it was serendipity, you said earlier. So it was a very personal experience that led you to understanding that these tests are difficult to come by, the results aren't understood. And so I guess your vision in terms of what is it you're trying to do with your organization now?
I love that question. I think the main thing we want to do is, first of all, open the conversation about menopause and perimenopause. So I appreciate this space because I didn't know about it. Most women don't know about it, and they don't know how their symptoms are related to it. So that's a big issue. And also research shows that once you know, the symptoms can improve up to 50%. And the second thing is just make it accessible. Because Singapore, we're lucky, but other countries, they either don't have testing, they wait months for a doctor, or they just don't have the knowledge for it. So I think one is awareness, and the other one is just accessibility.
Okay. Mayra, we were talking earlier about trained doctors and access to trained doctors. Can you just say a few words on that?
Yeah, so this is very, very interesting. So we realized that our experience going through it was not unique. First of all, perimenopause is unique. It's a universal experience. Every woman will go through it, but the experience is very personal. So how they approach it is very personal. And what we realized is that when we started looking at the numbers, there is just not enough doctors trained. Statistically, they say that about 20% of specialists are trained on this age group. And not only
Is that
that,
worldwide or the US or?
specifically in the US,
Right.
we believe that statistics are pretty similar in other parts of the world because the US still leads in many of this. And on top of that, there's also statistics that show that in the next 5 years, many of OBGYN are going to leave the workforce because, they're going to retire, and there's just not enough coming in. So it is estimated there is right now about one specialist for every 9,000 women.
Good grief. Wow. And that problem is getting worse.
It's going to get worse, yeah.
And I'd imagine most parts of Asia are probably underserved compared to the
And
US.
most of the world is underserved. So if you look at below the equator, it's going to be just... And this is a huge problem because these women are normally at the top of the career. They're the caretakers of their family. They're sometimes the ones earning the money at home. So imagine if you take them out of the workforce, you don't have someone, first of all, that provides for the family, but also that can...
So it's a personal challenge.
Yeah.
And then a coincidental meeting with your co-founder that led to, was that the trigger point then that started the business?
Yes. So I think it was just all pieces coming together at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay. So could you tell us a little bit about your product and what you get from the product, and then how women can manage their situation?
Absolutely. So picking up on your question, Bill, when we realized that there was this gap, women were just waiting very long to see a doctor and getting answers. And we talked about some of your personal experience as well. Is we realized that first we need to create a platform that allows women access to these resources wherever they are, because it's a very personal. So you want to do it at home, you want to do it quickly, and you want to build your database. So what we basically developed is an app where you receive a test kit. Looks basically like a pregnancy test or a COVID test.
Looks identical. Yeah. Okay.
And you receive the test kit at home. You take the test, and within 10 minutes, you get those 2 lines, basically. So what our app is able to do is you take a photo of this test. Our app reads the lines and gives you a quantitative number. So if you do a COVID test or a pregnancy...
Precise. Amazing.
About 95% precision, according to studies that we published. If you have a pregnancy or a COVID test, you just want to know yes or no.
Yep.
Here you want to have a number.
And how often would you take the test?
So we want women to start testing young enough and do cycles of 3 to 6 months. Different hormones need to be tested, which also is a complication, on different days of the month and different times of the day. So
you couldn't do that through a regular GP, right?
You won't be able to do it, exactly. And right now, that's how we do it, because we have no choice, which is fantastic that is there. But the problem is that you need to have dynamic testing to be able to build your own profile with your own data base, so your own baseline, which when we do lab tests, they have their own baselines, but it's not your baseline.
Okay, so what do you do? So you've now got, you can trend your data. So what does the individual woman now do with that data? How does it allow her to manage?
And that's where
situation?
the fantastic thing that we can do now with AI, that's another thing
AI.
that we are able to enable with AI, is that once you have enough data, you can train the AI to give you a personalized recommendations. Our idea is that you should be able to start first with the most not natural but less invasive ways of treatment. That includes what you eat, supplementation, how you manage stress, way of sleep,
Some more lifestyle
changes.
without any medication at this point.
And eventually, if you need to, you can take these data points to your doctor that might be able to give you more precise recommendations on medication.
And I'm sure Joyce, my wife, won't be upset when I say this, but I've watched her go through this over the last 12 months or so. And when it came to options over medication and things, it seemed to be pretty hit and miss. Is that the way it is at the moment, or is that just my perception?
I think I'm so glad you brought this up, because this is the general experience of women. At no fault of anyone. That's just how the system is. If you go to the doctor will ask you a few questions. So you rely on the doctor asking the right questions and you remembering the symptoms. After that, you will get sent to do a lab if you're lucky. And on the basis of that, you get a differential diagnostic. That means it could be this or that or that. And then they start narrowing. If it works, great. If not, you go to the next trial and error. So yes, statistically, it could take up to 9 years to find the solution.
9 years?
And bear in mind that perimenopause can last anything from 7 to 15 years.
Good grief.
And the way I would put it is, our body is amazing. All these symptoms are like alarm bells telling you there's something you need to look, because the body is going through certain changes. If you don't catch it in time, or if you wait too long, which is the case, 25% of women spend most of their, or 4 out of 5 women are spending, spend most of their lives, or later lives, or all their lives in poor health.
Well, it's not surprising if they can't get access to the right medical treatment.
Because hormones are the ones that take care of your skin, your bones, your organs. So if you do not manage it, it could lead into brain disease, heart disease, bone disease.
Cascades into other problems.
So what are your plans in terms of, we're here in Singapore, and I believe you picked Singapore as your base. So why have you picked Singapore? What's special about Singapore, and what are your growth plans for Asia and the rest of the world?
Well, aside that my heart is in Singapore. Well, Singapore is great to do business. First of all, setting up a company was very easy. I think the Singapore government made a very good job to attract
It's very
us here.
pro-business, right?
Yeah, so I haven't found that anywhere else. Secondly, Singapore is very strict with regulation, but it's also very clear about the rules. So we know if we do it right here, it's going to be very likely that we'll get it right for the outside.
Is that because it's a business, or because you're in the health space?
Because we're in the health space. That's a great question. Yeah, exactly, because we're in the health space. And the third thing is that something fantastic about Singapore that suits very well our business specifically is that it's small, it's contained, but it's also very diverse population. And one of the issues that we have in women's health is that the diversity of the data.
So the demographics here.
It's not diverse, basically. So here we can get a lot of very good data points.
Very good.
You sorry to go back, but you mentioned AI, and one of the questions we've been asking all our guests is AI another tool in the toolbox, or is it an internet moment? How profound a change is AI on your future business?
I think it's already changing healthcare. There's research papers that show that doctors can be maybe 1% less, like the best doctors can be 1% less accurate than AI. But together they can be 5 to 10 points much more accurate. So I think that it will relieve a lot of the pressures, because you cannot expect a doctor. First of all, doctors cannot memorize the whole book. Right? Doctors have to rest, they have to eat, they have to take holidays. So AI will help with that. On the other hand, AI cannot do the human touch.
Mhm.
So you still need that customer service. And I think AI would allow doctors to be human with their patients again.
Is it impacting your product development and your future roadmap?
Yes, absolutely. The issue that we are facing is not itself the tool, but the data you put into it, specifically for women's health, has is poor. Let's put it that way, because first of all, there's not much to research. We talked about this. I don't know if you know this, but women were not part of research studies until 1996.
This is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. I
That was
was
FDA.
shocked by that.
Yeah. Scary.
So most of the medicines that we take as women have not been tested on women, and that's why
I fundamentally can't believe it.
8 out of 10 medicines that are taken out of the market is because they're harmful to women.
What about your data? So when you're collecting this data, I mean, you mentioned Singapore. Are you constrained where it goes?
Yeah.
Can it go offshore? Does it stay in country?
It is, absolutely. So different countries have different regulations. There's still, in my opinion, not enough regulations for both of an AI and the uses of data. Our goal is to make sure that the user owns their data and they decide what the data should be used. Because the reality is that there's a lot of data. It's just they're owned by centralized institutions, and you can't really use the data to treat yourself.
Yep.
But also maybe my data can be used for my future generations to have
Okay.
health. Right?
So this comment you made earlier, you've mentioned women's health several times. Is this human health, and you're starting on women's health, or how do we look at this? Because I'm looking at an investment point of view, this whole segment seems to be a separate thing for women, but why should it be separate?
Yep.
Because the crude answer, we have ovaries.
Yeah.
And ovaries are very different,
Yeah.
how they perform. But the reality, and what I love to say is, right now we spend so many years researching health in general.
Mm.
Then we realize that our bodies are different.
Mm.
That's the reality. So we have a lot of information how men's health work. And if we don't study the other 50% of the population, we're not serving anyone, because we know at this stage men are more prone to autism, women to autoimmune. We don't know why. But if we can figure out why, we can help both men and women. So it's more about, can we add the other 50% data set so we can have better outcome for everyone?
So the point I was trying to get to is, do you see yourself growing as a health company or a women's health company? Do you see yourself moving into similar things? Because we've got friends and lots of people that probably, guys that don't want to talk about these challenges that they've had in midlife as well.
Yeah.
When testosterone levels drop.
Yep.
And all this kind of stuff. And I'm convinced men go through a similar experience. We
Absolutely.
just don't talk about it. So is this a thing that you look to address in the future, or are you going to be strictly women's health?
So I think it's a full circle kind of thing. So right now, the technology we're using actually was developed for athletes in the Premier League. Soccer
in the
rugby
UK.
player, athletes, basically mostly men. That's why it was started with the cortisol, and hopefully soon we'll have testosterone as well. So if we can take that technology that already exists, improve it, focus it on women, eventually we'll have the 50-50, and then we can go back and serve a full population.
So you'll enhance the platform, add new different
Data points.
data points that you cover. Okay. A question. This subject is sort of kind of taboo. Guys don't talk about it. Certainly, women, I'm sure they do amongst themselves. But I mean, the whole area is, sort of taboo. When you've gone out and talked to VCs to raise money, I mean, is it the fact that it's women health in the area you're in? Have you found sort of you struggle to get people's attention?
Yeah, what's been the reaction?
I think that unfortunately, even us women don't know about it. So it's very difficult to talk about something you don't know.
Yeah.
I think that I think institutions have a way that they need to fill their mandate, because you have a formula that you need to fill for your investors. So traditionally, the same that FDA didn't have it in the mandate
Yep.
to have women in there.
Yep.
It's the same thing with investment. It's changing, but the reality is, if we don't push for change faster, it's going to take us another 200 years to get to the point where
200 years.
Yeah, this is our statistics by the World Economic Forum, by the way, that talks about But it also talks that for every $1 that we put into women's health, we get $3 back.
Okay.
So I think it's changing. I wish it was faster.
Okay. And just before we kicked off, we were talking about women leadership in business, and you were saying that women work differently. You don't want to sort of comment in terms of what you've seen. You've got a female partner.
Well, Bill has a great experience. I don't know if he wants to share.
No, you go ahead.
So I think that I've been super fortunate because where I worked, there was no. You just have to show up to work and do things well. My boss, his boss, that's how they worked in Adidas. So I didn't really know there was any difference of doing things. And we were 50-50. Our company right now is 50-50. But the reality is now that I spend time with in conference where 90% are women, I realize that we do work differently. We're very community-based.
That's a difference. Community, you mentioned that earlier. Yeah.
Yes. So think about this. If a woman likes something, everybody will know about it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
So they're great at storytelling and they're great at like building communities and sharing things. That's why many companies, they use women that stay at home to build their businesses with their community. So I think we're great at that, but we're also very straightforward. We have a hard time exaggerating things. So if we tell you we're going to sell 100, it's because we are confident we're going to sell 100.
Yeah.
Different from us guys, right?
Well, I would say we have different way of selling.
Okay.
So on your journey right now, you're raising funds, and you're actually, this is your seed round, Series A. Where are you?
This will be our seed round.
Okay.
We already raised angels round before, which basically got us to where we are now, including we're running right now a pilot with a university in Mexico that is gonna just show the interest of women just to know more. I think this.
Okay. So where do you start? I mean, your solution is universal. So picking a country, where do you start? I mean, how have you managed to? You said you want to. I mean, you're based in Singapore. You're looking at Mexico, I guess, because of your background. I mean, have you got any views as to where you want to start and pilot and grow into?
Yes. So definitely Singapore. Singapore is our first stop. I think Singapore, like I mentioned, is a great place for that. Eventually, we do want to bring it to the US just because it's a market that is mature enough to take on digital health. The government has also put a lot of effort on that. And eventually, we do want to go make it available from Boston to Botswana, a friend would say.
I like that. So Singapore public versus private health, are they both showing interest in your
I think
product?
And who is the client? Is it the individual or is it the medical services?
Yes. Or is it hospital, the doctors, the specialists?
Exactly like there. You read my mind, Bill. So FemTech is quite unique in the sense that usually FemTech builds for FemTech. So you have the user or the consumer building for the consumer. So you already know that what you need, you and your friends will use it basically. So what we noticed the trend to be is that is user and consumer demand led because they tend to adopt faster than the institutions.
Right.
And that's the case for many of the successful FemTech companies.
So is anybody doing what you're doing? Is this transformational or is this a Me Too or this sounds brand new, but is it?
So I think it's about improvement, the current process. The closest right now to what we do, I would say is either lab tests that you receive in a pack and then you send back to the lab, or companies that are doing a fertility testing. They send you the test, you take a picture of the test. So this to say that the consumer is kind of used to it. They're just looking for ways to do it better. But the additional thing is that the tests that we're offering, they don't exist right now. Like cortisol, rapid saliva cortisol test is the only one available, because saliva is just a very convenient way of testing, but a very difficult sample to test.
So people listening to this or watching this and who are interested in this, are you ready to go to market yet? Is it yet to come? When do you actually have a product that people can pick up on?
So we are right now have form on our website where they can go in and sign up for it. We're going to launch our beta by the end of the year that
Awesome.
we're going to select basically a few people to help us go on it. We do hope to get a very diverse group of people, because basically we're looking at diversifying our data sets.
It's okay. So we're taking this to market soon. Use of funds now. You're raising money because of research for access to market. Why are you raising?
So the next race that we will do is going to be focused on improving the algorithm. So improving the app, continuing our research to develop more tests. So right now we have 3 in the box. We want to develop a full panel. So basically, you don't have to go to a lab. You get everything at home in 10 minutes. And obviously awareness. Awareness is a very big component.
Yep.
Because the situation that we face is that women don't have a name for their symptoms. But once you tell them, do you feel this and this and that? They're like,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we need to put a label to it so women can find a solution.
Very good. And your team size, how big are you today? Or well, not necessarily how big are you, but what are the resources you have in-house? Are you software house? Are you scientists? I mean, what have you got in your team?
Yeah, good question. So right now is full-time me and my co-founder. We do have other people involved on a part-time basis, helping us with like the branding, the research part that we're doing right now, the development as well. We have a development firm that is behind us. But we are looking for partners, both from the technical part, from the data side, from the science part. We're looking for doctors and specialists that want to be involved in the
So
research.
doctors listening, please reach out.
Yes, please reach out, and commercialization partners as well. So we're a small team. We need, in order to support more women, we need to get more partnership opportunities.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I think that's both of us wish you every success with this business. We think it's an absolutely amazing opportunity, and we've all know people or friends, or my wife in my case, where we've got experience of going through this painful process, and I think that the more attention we can get on it, the better. And absolutely wish you every success with your business.
Thank you. I appreciate the space, the questions, the involvement. I think for us it's very important to have allies in the conversation that help us push the message.
Well, thank you for coming in, Mayra, and every success with your organization and with yourself.
All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.